Hey guys, it's Matt here, and today I'm doing another episode of Matt Rants. And today we're talking about a topic that we talked about a while ago on the channel. So, a while ago we talked about the quote-unquote leaked N64 classic images, talked about whether or not they might be real or not. I tried to have some healthy skepticism, but I was hoping. However, Reggie Fils Aime, he looked at me, totally me personally, he completely knows me, hashtag sarcasm, he totally knows me, looked at me and said, Matt, I want to crush your hopes and dreams. And I said, well, thank you, Reggie. Can I have another? So what Reggie Fils Aime said recently, and by the way, the article for this will be listed in the comments or in the description box down below. So Reggie Fils Aime said that apparently the N64 classic is not in our planning horizon, quote unquote. Now, if you want to think, well, it's an interview, so he's not just gonna randomly say that they're coming out with an N64 classic in an interview, right? Well, he then went on to say, and again, I'm quoting him here. He says, "We were clear when we did the first two classic series that, for us, these were limited time opportunities that were a way for us as a business to bridge from the conclusion of the Wii U as a hardware system to the launch of Nintendo Switch." And then he went on to say, that was the very strategic reason we launched the NES Classic system. So Nintendo literally looked at the NES Classic, not even the SNES at this point, but the NES Classic and thought, well, that Wii U bombed. So how about, because the Wii U bombed and because we need to put something out while the Switch becomes a thing as we're working on it, and then of course as they're trying to build up that fan base, all right, let's put out the NES Classic. And they just didn't realize that they would be getting that much fan love for it. And then, of course, the SNES Classic came out as well. And I guess maybe Nintendo truly, now that they have such a huge fan base with the Switch, it sold more than 22 million copies. Last I heard, it actually sold more than the GameCube did during its run. So that was very interesting as well. And I also want to mention, because he went on to say something else as well. He mentioned that, right, yes, I have it right here. So Fils Aime said that apparently the Nintendo Switch Online service is where Nintendo fans should look for that kind of retro content in the future. So what that means is, you're not going to get N64 games until we give them to you. And because of how, but here's the thing, they're trickling out NES games so slowly, which I don't think is a bad thing to do, but if you're not going to have an N64 Classic, you should probably just jump to N64 in the near future just to quell those thoughts and those concerns, because there are people that, I mean, look, I'm not saying that everyone who says that it seems like the sky is falling when it comes to emulators and ROMs and the fact that there's no other way to play these, I'm not saying that they're 100% correct. However, yeah, if you're going to sit back and say, no, we're not going to release any more classic systems, of course, I would imagine they're going to keep the NES and SNES Classic editions in stock because they just keep on selling. So I don't think they're I don't think Fils Aime is saying that those are going out of print. I don't want to read it in that way. But to say that, because it's just right in front of us, that he's not going to, or Nintendo is not going to make the N64 Classic Edition, is just a silly thing if there aren't any N64 games on the Nintendo Switch Online service. Now, they could be rolling them out within the next year. I really hope that they do, because I do think that it's just kind of silly to not have those on your service but still say, yeah, no, you can get all that stuff there. Okay, that's great, but could you actually, like, just one show of good faith, just Super Mario 64, just one, not even a crazy amount of N64 games, just Super Mario 64, boom, oh, okay, it makes you think there's going to be more Nintendo, specifically N64 games on the Nintendo Switch Online service. Just something small like that, and then I feel like a lot of people would just become like, oh, I guess this means there's not going to be an N64 Classic, but at least the game is on the Nintendo Switch Online service. But if you don't do that, and we only have a handful of NES games on there, well, it's just, I understand where people are frustrated and why they're concerned. Now, I will admit, and I know this probably is just holding out for false hope, so you can totally call me out for that in the comment section down below if you want. But I have a feeling, and it's just me, I don't know anyone at Nintendo, right? I have no connections at this point, but I have a feeling that there's a good chance that they still might be coming out with an N64 Classic. But why would Reggie even do anything to even tease one? And some of you guys would be like, but why can't he tease one? Why wouldn't that be a good idea? The reason why is because if it doesn't come out during the either Black Friday sales or for the holiday season, then it would be coming out in March, or potentially in the first quarter of the new year. And at the same time, like if they do that, then people will just be saying, well, where's my N64 Classic? I mean, Reggie teased it. Why isn't it out for the holiday season? This is dumb. And it just looks bad on Nintendo, even though Reggie just straight up said, hey, we're not, like, it would be easier for Reggie to say straight up, we're not getting one, versus saying, oh no, we're totally going to get one in the near future. Some people say that quells fans' concerns and fears, but depending on the situation, depending on how it's said, depending on what they're talking about, what a developer or a representative rather is talking about, you could then have a situation where fans are now expecting, like, okay, so it's coming any day now, right? Any day, tomorrow, the next day after that, next month, wait, next year. Oh, that's a long wait. So I would rather Reggie, if this even is coming out, not saying that those leaked images were real, but if they are working on an N64 Classic, I would prefer Reggie saying, nope, not happening, rather than actually leading us on and then having people start to question him and Nintendo in general on when that's coming out. I mean, we've seen how many people are questioning Sakurai over the DLC. He actually had to come out and say, hey nerds, he didn't say that, but I could feel it. Hey nerds, listen. How about you stop? We've picked all the DLC for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, so stop it. And we thank you for your support. Basically what he did. I mean, it was different. It was somewhat different, but the message was very clear. So he had to do that as well because people were just talking to him about DLC. Now, of course, DLC, that's making some more money. I'm not saying they should announce DLC, but still, you can see why. You can see how people end up pressuring certain devs and reps from Nintendo about certain products. So in this interview, I have no problem with what Reggie said. I hope that this is just a red herring. I hope that we're not actually going to be living in a future without an N64 Classic. Do I love the N64? Not more than I do the Super Nintendo from when I was a kid, but I do have a handful of awesome N64 games, and there are some N64 games that they're a little bit more expensive, that if you gave me an $80 Classic, even a $100 Classic, if you gave me more games than you did the PS1 Classic, and they were more first-party titles, which of course they would be because it's Nintendo, I have no problem purchasing that, especially trying to put Super Smash Bros. On that would also be a lot of fun as well. But, again, it's with all the stuff coming out this holiday season. I have talked to you guys before about this because there were rumors, and then there were controller trademarks. So we've talked about this not just with the leaked images. We've talked about that a lot over the last year. But of course, you could imagine that perhaps they want all of the holiday sales to go into, Let's Go Pikachu, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, those Let's Go Pikachu and Smash Ultimate Switch bundles, just getting a new Switch in general. So I'm sure they want all of that money to go into all of those, products instead of the N64 Classic. I know normally we would say, hey, but usually it's two separate markets. But with something like a Classic, it does end up having a fair amount of people who are going to get the current console to come back to it. I don't think it's like the PS1 Classic situation, where I do think that the PS1 Classic, I did a Matt Rants on this as well, but they should have had, Crash Bandicoot, even with the HD remasters. They should have had Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, and a bunch of other games as well, like Symphony of the Night. But when it comes to this one, because Nintendo has released them before and they're not trying to make a splash, you could say that I'm not saying that it would flop, but people would have to make a decision. Do I want that new Switch, or do I want that N64 Classic? And I do think that Nintendo perhaps doesn't want people doing that. Again, this is even assuming that they really are coming out with a Classic and Reggie is not to be believed, which it's always sad because he's in the Nintendo rep. I should believe Reggie Fils Aime. But I don't know why I'm still holding out that hope. I think it's because Nintendo's been making so much money from these, and the N64, while a bit harder to emulate depending on what kind of computer you have, or at the very least hard to map the controller. Now I know some of you guys are like, really, you can't emulate like PS1? Like, do you have a toaster? Yes, I do. I actually own several toasters, and that's how I edit all of our videos. So it's just a thing where I do feel like that's a nice level of, if some people can't emulate, you could purchase it. But again, you know, if Nintendo really feels like this is the future, they'd rather make a lot less money with the Nintendo Switch online service, barely putting on games, at this point anyway. Maybe they'll roll out more games after the first year, or after the first, 6 months or so. They'll start to put more games of, varying different, spreading on different consoles. But as of right now, I do think that it's a bad decision if they truly don't go through with it. I hope that they do. I hope that this news was just because, again, it's an interview. He can't just announce, be like, actually, I have a prototype right here, unless that was going to be the plan from the get-go. So, I mean, we'll see what happens in the future. I want to know what you guys have to say, though. Do you want an N64 Classic Edition? Are you fine? Do you think there might be too many Classic Editions? Do you think, you know what, everything's good, you have your Classic Editions? Do you think maybe the PS1 has tainted the brand? After seeing that lineup, Nintendo's like, maybe we should move away from Classic Editions. So, tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you guys feel in the comment section down below. Would love to hear what you guys have to say. And also, if you like the video, then please remember to like and subscribe. If you don't like the video, you can still like and subscribe either way. And you can hate watch everything we do. We'll love it. You'll hate it. We'll love it. So, thank you all so much. Tune in next time for another episode of Matt Rants. Alright, guys. So, take care and see ya.